Hey traders, and welcome back to another market update. Today we're going to be taking a look at the currency market, seeing what's going on, and talking about some potential trade ideas that I see. So let's go ahead and start with Euro USD here on the far left. And what you'll notice about the euro dollar is it's been all over the place. Very, very strange activity for the euro in the last several kind of months and weeks, really. What you'll notice most recently is that we've been extremely back and forth. We've seen price just kind of decide to go back and forth continuously, and it really doesn't seem to pick a strong direction until now, where it's starting to show signs of a lot of bullishness here on the Euro USD. Okay, so things are going quite a bit to the upside. We've broken out of a range here. What you'll notice is we've got things like this range and this range, right, or the top and the bottom of this range, where sellers were basically controlling the highs and buyers were controlling the lows, until recently, where we basically flew past the seller level and continued very, very strongly to the north side or to the upside. Now, the big question here with Euro USD is, when is this thing going to stop? Is it going to keep running? Is it going to make its way all the way to the previous high? Well, I think it's possible, but I would say that you have to remember that you have a couple different things that are working against a move like that. One of them being this long-term momentum to the downside. We have a lot of long-term sellers in Euro USD. And I'd be pretty convinced that there's at least some big money that wants to take shorts in a long-term trend when price is pulling back, right? That's just my personal opinion. I would say that that's a pretty good chance that that is going on. Is it a guarantee that it's going to come crumbling down? No, of course not. There is no guarantees in Forex. But let's talk about at least some setups that I like. Well, I think that if price were to get up to this point here, I like the idea of looking for shorts in that area, just because look at how strange, again, this price action has been. We've seen just really, really weird back and forth market. So if price were to come up to this area, to me, this would be a decent area to look for shorts overall. So that's just my personal 2 cents there on Euro USD. I think that as we are right now, I think it's possible that we could see some retests along the way, right? For example, if we were to continue to get bullish, buyers would probably want to do something like this, hold that and continue the push up. But we will see if that is really what ends up happening. So of course, those are just my ideas there on Euro USD. Let's move on to something else like pound dollar here. What you'll notice about pound dollar, we're taking a look at the daily chart here. And when we look at the daily chart, there's one thing I want to talk about here big time. Long term, we've got some downtrend structure here, and we've got some uptrend structure here. Generally speaking, if the trend is going to continue, which a lot of times the trend is kind of the default direction, right? Well, then we would probably want to see price hold this dominant longer term downtrend. Now we also have this bullish trend here, right? We have a counter trend to the upside, and so we've got kind of a mix of energy. Generally speaking, the longer term trend a lot of times wins, from at least my own experience. A lot of times the longer term trend is going to kick in and kind of push price to its will, right? If this was flipped, if we were going up and we had a downtrend like this, right, the uptrend would potentially be more biased. Now, it doesn't mean that it has to happen, right? We certainly could see price decide to make some breakouts and potentially do something like this. That's possible. I'm just saying that I think the likely scenario is that we see some sort of rollover, some sort of bearishness along the way as the pound dollar gets going. Now, one more thing to add here with the pound dollar is if I take a, let's see if we get a moving average on here and we put the 200 period. Perfect. We are still trading underneath the 200 period moving average. And recently we tagged this level twice and found resistance both times pretty strongly. And so as we come up to that area, to me, that's still an interesting level of resistance to think about. And so as we come up to that, there might be some trades, right? Again, going along with this downtrend structure, if we were to take a short, for example, right around this area, let's say that price were to come up here, right? Let me make this just a little bit smaller. So if we were to come up to this point here and you decide you want to take a short, well, my opinion here, I like the idea of a short with kind of this continuation in mind, maybe with stops somewhere above structure. So if we were to do something like this, right, and then maybe a target roughly at, you could do this level, or if you're more aggressive or longer term, you could shoot for something like this. This would be a longer term trade. This would probably take weeks to play out unless you get stopped out relatively quickly. But for the most part, I like these trade setups. This is just my opinion here. Waiting for some sort of retest of that trend line and looking for the 200 period to kind of play out in your favor. But we'll see if that decides to happen. And I guess we'll be back with updates in the future on that. Dollar yen is the next one here. Dollar yen really pushing to the upside. We saw some really impressive dollar yen strength here in the last few days. You could see actually starting to kick off into the right direction, at least kind of choosing a direction at the very least. We've seen this level hold pretty nicely. We've also seen, I was watching this level. Now that exhausted and we failed that. You can see we actually rolled over, but it seems as if now, interestingly enough, if we pull that out there, you can actually see it seems like that's acting as resistance now. So it should be interesting to see if we get some pullback. Of course, a really big level that I personally really like here on dollar yen 4-hour chart is, drag this fib, check this out. So we've got the 61.8 right here, beautiful level there. We've also got past resistance, now potentially becoming support. It's a trade setup that I personally really like. I'd probably target the previous high and put structured stops underneath somewhere. Just my 2 cents there on dollar yen. Gold is our next one. Gold did fall yesterday quite a bit. We took a tumble there, but we are still in just a range bound market here on gold. So what that means is that we're still just back and forth. We're still just seeing price not really choose a strong direction yet. If we decide to break lower, there might be some trades to look for on the downside if you don't mind going against the long-term trend. But for me personally, the trade that I really like still on gold is looking for some sort of key pullback to maybe a level of structure, looking to get long for the longer term. Okay, just my personal opinion there on gold. Again, all of these trades are not trades I'm telling you to go do. I would encourage you to go do your own thinking, go make your own trades. Don't just follow other people. This is just me sharing my analysis, and hopefully you can get something out of it. Oil here, actually an interesting one. If we draw fibs from the swing high to the swing low, we are just now testing the 50% retracement, which also happens to line up with this gap close, this gap open level, right? So we gapped and we have still not filled that gap. So if price decides to continue in this direction, we'll probably fill that gap very quickly. Now, on the contrary, this is kind of a level of resistance because people who gapped this market down, or at least the sellers who were involved, they probably, if they're still holding it longer term, they probably want to hold this area as much as they can. But we'll see who wins in that case. Not a super strong opinion here on oil, but I do like that 61.8% retracement a little bit better even. If price were to trail up there, I'd like the idea of looking for shorts and looking for that longer term downtrend. So we'll see what happens. Dollar Swiss is our last one here. I do like the fact that price has been holding this level very nicely for the time being, but we seem to want to come back and test it once more, right? So we've seen buyers stepping in, and now price is coming down. Will we be able to break it this time? That's the big question here for bears on dollar Swiss. My personal opinion is I don't care. Well, I'm waiting to see what happens. So for example, if we were to see the break, then there might be a setup, right? So if we were to see that work, something like this could actually be a decent trade setup in my opinion, looking for that downtrend to continue. That's just my 2 cents there on dollar Swiss. Guys, let me know if it was helpful. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you back next time.